but I shall start with the introduction. Losing Hope in Non-Duality. My God, what a title. Losing Hope in Non-Duality. So I've been speaking about this for now, next year I think it's coming up 10 years. 10 years. They say once you do something for 10,000 hours, you become an expert. I don't know if that's true with non-duality, like speaking about it. But there's one thing that I've noticed over the years is that people fall in and out of love with non-duality. So they say that falling in love, like on the chemical level, happens for about 2.5 years. And that in that time, it ensures that people make babas. And so they're joined as a family. And then there's a deeper bond that begins to grow after that. But to your body, some people fall in love for longer periods than that, but generally on average it's 2.5 years, that really intense falling in love, the chemical falling in love. And then after that, a deeper bond grows that changes and becomes more grounded and solid. And I think this happens with non-duality. I think in a way, non-duality becomes like a lover, like you fall in love with the message, because like what non-duality is pointing to is love. Like, so our essence is love, and it's what you experience when you fall in love as well, and when you're having the chemical endorphins running around your body of like wanting to make love and wanting to be all romantic. There is this quality of the end of seeking, feeling at home, this natural glow of love that's behind everything. And that's why people get so addicted to being in love, because when they fall in love, there is moments of the end of seeking. There's also moments of loads of seeking, but it's that end of seeking that you're really looking for. And I think this happens in the first couple of years with non-duality, is that first of all, you fall in love with it. And then if a deeper bond doesn't grow with non-duality, then after about 2.5 years, you begin to get bored of it and lose hope in it and move away from it. So you begin to get stories like, oh, it's not working for me, it's never going to work, it's all hooty tooty, it's all in la la land, it's away with the fairies. And then maybe you begin to move into something else. It doesn't work for me, or it's hopeless, it's pointless. And I think that's, I've seen that a lot. And then people come back, maybe there's about 2.5 years of them off doing something else, and then they come back to this subject. And really what the seeker is looking for is rest. So it's home, which is this moment. But the reason that we or humans get so distracted by that is because they have emotional reactions, they have character difficulties, they have difficulties in the flow of life, and then seeking gets activated. So they identify with those problems, with those feelings, and then seeking gets activated. And they believe that their freedom is found in time, and they can't separate from that. So there's a belief that that's you, and it's how you are and the way you are. It feels like you. Even if you've got deep knowledge and insight into non-duality, these problems can occur and it really feels like you. Waking up to me is not losing the character. So originally when I first started to speak about this, I used to talk about no self. And I think it's just a different way of speaking about it. And then over years, that expression began to change for me because it didn't feel accurate anymore. Because there is the appearance of a self, there is appearance of the character. So, and that comes and goes. And sometimes it's more there and sometimes it's less there. But what I meant by no self, and what I mean now by no self, is that that which is experiencing this isn't the character, isn't the person that you thought yourself to always be. So your essence, who you truly are, is no self, is no thing, is not a thing. but there is an appearance of a character. Some teachers claim for that all to be gone, there to be absolutely no self, and I don't know what they're meaning by all of that. And then some people speak like me, but it's impossible to define, because I can only have my particular experience on the human level, on the teaching level. There can be an expression of this, and there is an expression of this coming out of nothing, but it goes through the filter of the human, and the human only knows things at a certain level. It doesn't intrinsically know everything, including all the different ways of teaching. And if that the way that I teach is the same as other people. I really resonate with a lot of people's way of speaking about this, but I don't know if the details are the same on what experiences or not experiences they've had, and what's different or the same as what I've had. And I like this clear definition between the character and no self, and the no thing and everything, like who's actually looking now. So who's actually looking now is nothing. And that by default means it's everything. So everything is self-conscious. So some people say what's looking now is consciousness, and that's true to an extent, but we don't know who the consciousness belongs to. Like, it's mystery who that consciousness belongs to, or what that consciousness is. So on a deeper level, you could say that consciousness isn't it? Like, what you are is mystery. Like, consciousness is the functioning of that mystery. It's the first thing that has to happen in order for life to happen, in order for life to appear. But this is really complex, all these little details, and whatever resonates for you, you don't think to yourself, oh, I've got to understand or see it the way Lisa does, because your way of seeing it might be perfect for you. But what can happen when I'm speaking is there could be intellectual clarity. There could, on the human level, be a reduction of suffering. There could be an increase. I can't know about that. You could interpret this in your own way, which isn't helpful for you, which is negative for you. You could interpret it and it's positive for you. I don't know that. That's not in my hands. And I'm not going to give you some false belief that I know the best way for you. I don't know the best way for you. It's too big and too complex. There could be things that might seem better and things that might seem worse, but in the end I don't know. I can only speak from what's apparently happened with Lisa. So I like the clear definition. I've forgotten the beginning of that. I think I was saying something like, I like the clear opposites of having like the character and then the no thing. And so the character, so then there's the character with all its traumas and all its habits and conditions, which you could call karma. So if you were brought up with really balanced parents, then there's a good chance you'll be quite balanced and integrated. If you're brought up in a really difficult situation, then you might experience lots of difficult emotions. If you're brought up in the West, you're going to have a different outlook to life than if you're brought up in the East. So character has its particular conditioning, and none of that conditioning is right or wrong, and none of that conditioning leads you further away from God or to God. So people with healthy conditioning, it doesn't mean they're closer to God. Like, everything is close to God. Everything is this moment. So everything is that. And that's something like that can be adjusted, the human habits and conditions in the human realm, from self-consciousness of it. So becoming conscious of what your body's made up for, what it wants, what it needs, its outlook, the way it experiences the world, what happened to it in childhood. So there can be its chakra system, and that can all be aided and helped in the human world. There can be things that can fix that, make it better, make it easier. There can be things that damage that and make it more difficult as well. And there appears to be somebody that can choose to do that. So you can choose to explore your dynamics. The illusion is that you've never been choosing. There isn't actually someone there that's been choosing. There's been an appearance of choice happening. So there's been the feeling of choice. And it doesn't mean, when we're talking about non-duality, you don't have to then reject the appearance of choice. The appearance of choice is meant to be there. That's how these robots works, or these machines work, or these bodies work. You can choose between helping yourself or not helping yourself. But it's dependent on your particular karma and your particular story as to whether that is acted out or not. And then you've got this in between. So you've got the character, and then you've got consciousness, or who you truly are, and then you've got this in between layer, which is the seeking energy, or this like suction energy, which makes it feel like who the consciousness and the person are one and the same thing. So the no thing and everything are one and the same thing, and that you're limited to a body, and that who you are is habits and conditions, is what you like, what you don't like, what you've been through, what you're going to do in the future. And that really feels real to people, and it's an energy that appears in the body. So you feel this binding in the body, and it comes with this seed of agitation. Everybody has it. Even a happy person who's quite balanced has that seed of agitation, like you're not quite at home. You have to do things, you have to get somewhere in order to be happy. And this seeking escalates the character. So if you've got a difficult character, the seeking makes it more difficult. If you've had traumas in the past, the seeking makes it more difficult. So if you're a more fear-based person, then the seeking makes you want to run away from the fear even more, and get to happiness and get to pleasure. And it gives you this sense of unrest, and it produces excess thoughts, excess ideas, excess dynamics. And it makes you feel like what's watching now is solid and inside this body. So what's experiencing now is somebody, whereas that's not true. There isn't actually somebody watching now. There isn't somebody that's listening to my words. That's the illusion. You tell the story of this somebody, and then this is the suffering. The suffering is the belief, this seeking energy that attaches on to the person and says, that's who I am. I'm somebody that's listening to Lisa. Whereas actually there's nobody listening to Lisa. There is everything happening. What you are, who you are, is beyond these names of yourself. So you could like have a bump on your head, like and get amnesia and forget everything about your past and your future and where you're going, but you still have this same consciousness, this same empty looking, and this same sense of aliveness, of presence. The same. You could be really poor and you have this. You could be really rich and you have this. You could have lots of family and friends and you have this, and you have no family, friends, and you have this. What people think they are is, I'm somebody with lots of friends. That's not who you are. That's a description of what the character is in relationship to all other things. It's a thought and a story which is produced in this body. What you are is consciousness. And the relevance of seeing this is that there can be this energetic break. So this seeking energy collapses, and there is this deep rest, this sense of knowing home, not in the character world, but in your essence, and also, to the knowing of home, and then also this love, this spaciousness, that you aren't separate from all other things, that you aren't separate from the computer or the wall or the door or the other person. You are all things. You are all things. It's super beautiful. I forgot the name Okay, no title. I've got to bring it back. Losing hope. Another reason why people lose hope in this is not just because of the falling in love part. It's also because you can't enforce this. You can't make it happen. You can't switch on a switch. And that's very frustrating for the person. And that can increase the person's sense of hopelessness. They might already have a sense of hopelessness because in a way, nothing really works in this life to get you to the freedom that you want. So this can increase that sense of hopelessness. But it's just seeing that that's not true. That what you are right now is free. Those thoughts are so elusive, like they're juicy, they're like sucking attention, and then it feels true, and it's seeing that that story goes on, but it's not affecting who you are. Who you are is free. Who you are is here, alive, present. That's beautiful. So the body wakes up in the morning and it has a feeling of hopelessness, and then it starts running the story. It's useless. I'm never going to make it in non-duality. And then this is believed, and this might run for days. And then the energy will change in the body, and then that story will disappear or get focused on something else. And then maybe you're friends again with non-duality. Maybe you do this with your lovers as well, or your partner, or your children. But none of it's true. Nothing in life takes away freedom. Things can bring pleasure and pain. It can be annoying to wake up to have to do everybody's washing up in the morning, or having to clean up the whole house because there's clothes everywhere, or so there can be pain, but that doesn't take from your freedom. Your freedom is here. Your freedom is present. So it's not the end of pain. And then also the next part that I will discuss a bit is chakras. And I think that some people like this, some people don't like the chakra talk. But there's some good books on my reference page of different chakras and psychology in chakras, which can be helpful. So whatever we think and feel are deeply related. So we know in the West that if you feel fear, there is a saying in English, and I'm sure it's in lots of European languages, that you shit yourself. I shit myself from fear. So just from that saying, we know that that we feel feelings in our body, and that fear resides in the stomach or in the bowels. You shit yourself from fear. And then we also have a saying about heartbroken. So we know that that the energy in the heart is connected to being emotionally upset or heartbroken. And the chakras, to me, aren't this like really spiritual thing that belong in esoteric land. They're something that's really good at describing energies in the body. So if you feel fear, it's not just a mental thing, I feel fear, a story you can tell yourself. It's also an experience that you feel in the body. And most of the time when we feel fear, we feel it in the sacral chakra, which is your just below your belly button. It sometimes can be in the other chakras, you can feel it in your heart, but mostly that the fear is in the lower chakras. And if you feel heartache, you feel it in your heart. If you feel out of control, you feel it in your solar plexus. sexuality, you feel it in the sacral, ungroundedness in the root chakra, in the throat chakra, like inability to express emotions. You know, when you're around people and you feel like crying and then you get this big ball in your throat. So inability to express emotions, say what you want or how you feel. The third eye is like obsessive thinking and can be also empathy. And then the crown chakra is like connected to something bigger. And in chakra teachings, they believe that you have to get all of those balanced to become enlightened. And that's fine, you could say that, but that's enlightened, what I would describe enlightened maybe on the human level, if that's possible. And that means like the body becoming like immensely balanced. But that's not what I define as enlightenment. I define enlightenment is recognizing that the chakras, the body, nothing is you, and it's an energetic shift. But maybe there is this enlightenment that also happens through the chakras when the body becomes like very much imbalanced. I do get the sense though that will never end, that your body will get more and more balanced, but it's like a never-ending progress, because I don't see humans ever stopping their evolution. So if they never stop their evolution, then they can always expand their ways of being. Did I just knock out my sound there? Hello? No. And I do speak about chakras a lot in one-to-one sessions to try and get people into their body and into their feeling, because there's two different ways in which I express this and express how you can help yourself on the human level. One is going into the feelings, and I would say that's more the feminine way of doing it, not woman but feminine, and that's the more everything side of things. And then the other one is like going into the I am or consciousness, and then moving away from the feelings and moving into the space, moving into the looker, the witness. And I think both are relevant at different points. Like, I don't think it's always relevant to go into the feelings or always relevant to step out. If you always step out, then your body can never evolve and can never change. And if you always stay in the feelings, then there's a possibility of getting stuck in the feelings and the feelings becoming too important. But what I do a lot in one-to-one sessions, because we're never taught to feel, is spend a lot of time trying to get people to feel and talk about their feelings and talk about where the energy is in their body. And the way I see it is thoughts and the feelings are one and the same thing, like two sides of the same coin. What happens is we repetitively think something, or we get a shock, or we have a certain experience, and then it goes into our body, and our body remembers it, and then our brain remembers it. So it can even happen by repetitively thinking about it. So I'm not good enough, and then your chakras adopt this. So in not all situations, but a lot of situations, your body energetically is looking for not being good enough, looking for all those experiences of not being good enough. And then on the thinking level, your thoughts will come up and say, I'm not good enough. Your thoughts actually might come up and say, I'm better than. They're assholes and I'm better than, but actually deep down you feel you're not good enough. And when you interact with people, you're not just interacting on the mind level, you're interacting with the whole body. And often we're unconscious of the body part. So we're only listening to our story. And our story of what's happening can be vastly different from what is actually happening on the feeling level. And these need to come more into balance to settle the person down. That doesn't mean that you're closer to enlightenment if the person settles down. But what I feel happens intuitively is as the person becomes more settled, then there's more possibility to hear the message of what's beyond the person. So often your story of yourself is vastly different. So if you're going into a meeting, on the bodily level, your body is saying, I can't do this, I'm not good enough. And on the surface level, you're telling yourself you're better than everyone else. You know it, they are stupid if they don't see how great you are. Or you could be going in there and being like, oh, I always screw up, I'm rubbish at everything. And then on the body level, you feel this sense of inadequacy. You might be blaming other people, like, why are they always so grumpy? Why do they look? Why do I have to do this? Society is so screwed up. I hate society. You know, the usual. And I feel that when you're just more present to what you're actually feeling rather than the story of what you're feeling, then the feeling passes a lot quicker. Then there's this other dynamic of being identified with that. So believing that you are someone that's useless, or you are someone that's better than other people. So believing that's who you are. So being this energy sucking you into that, and then you feeling contained in that. And that's not a thought, that's like an energetic expression. Like being very absorbed in it and not being able to see the greater picture. Okay. So what was the title again? Using hope in non-duality. Another thing that can happen after a couple of years of being in love with non-duality is that non-duality brings you more present. So you begin to become conscious of all the crap that's underneath. So before you had all these stories that told yourself, which were safeguards, protections, kept people back, made you feel better about yourself. As you get more and more into non-duality, you become more conscious of the body and what you feel. And then there can be a lot of discomfort that comes up. Like there are a lot of thoughts or ideas. Like, so before you might have walked into a room and not really realized you were uncomfortable. You're like moaning about like, oh God, there's Henry from accounts and there's Debbie from the reception. So I don't like them. But now you walk in and you might notice that you feel really vulnerable and afraid of everybody. And that's hard, like to really bring this into life. Like the reason we built up our defenses was so we could function in this society and around other people. And to become conscious of it, it can be painful. And we don't know how to integrate that with family and friends and how to not feel isolated with that. So that's another reason why you can begin to lose hope in non-duality, is because sometimes it can bring up a few years of some difficult, intensive, like many years, like 10, 20, 30 years of intensive feelings. That's why I suppose in the East, they try to make it look like, they try to say, you know, you just got to do the best for this life. You know, this might take many lives. And I see that from a Western perspective, I see that as like we're a species which is evolving. So it's nobody's waking up, we're a species which evolves, and that takes time. So you just do your best in this life. And who is it that's looking anyway? Like, who is it that wants to wake up and wants to be done?